Welcome to Yahoo Sports Daily. She's Caroline Fenton. I'm Jason Fitz. It was historic. It was a cultural phenomenon. It absolutely captivated the world. The New York Knicks win the NBA championship over San Antonio in San Antonio with yet another comeback win. Caroline, we've seen a lot of titles. We see this all the time. This one felt different. I don't know if it's the way that it captivated us all. I don't know if it's the scenes in New York, but something about this Knicks team was bigger than a championship. It was a cultural phenomenon.
Cultural phenomenon is such a great way to put it, Fitzy. And I think there's two stories to this Knicks championship as reasons why we have all fallen in love with the New York Knicks. That is how I will remember this season, this run, this championship. The 2026 NBA season is the year that the New York Knicks captivated an entire nation, probably except everybody in Boston. But I think there's two sides of it. It's the team that we saw on the court. It's this plucky underdog story of Jalen Brunson that I think is so easy for all of us to resonate with and relate to, right? A guy that everyone said was undersized. Becky Hammon said you can't win a championship with a guy that small. Well, he proved Becky Hammon wrong. He was the guy that nobody wanted to pay in free agency, and the New York Knicks were the only team that gave Jalen Brunson a chance, at least at that price tag. Minnesota decided, yeah, we can win without Karl Anthony Towns. He wins one in New York. You know, this story of a bunch of guys that you probably haven't really heard of before, didn't really get their chance. Jose Alvarado was a guy who said, I didn't even think I'd be playing in the NBA, much less winning an NBA championship. Just this story of guys that either were counted out at some point in their careers or guys that you maybe hadn't even heard of before who are now on the on top of the basketball world. That is why we love sports. These guys who just absolutely love the game, who might not have the measurables that you can see in a combine or that pop off the page, but they just have it up here and in here. We love sports for that reason. Jalen Brunson is the perfect example of that. So it's the on the court style that we fell in love with New York. And then it's the city. It's the fan base. It's the bing bongs. It's my bagel chive Nixon 5, my Christian Dior Nixon 4. It's the block parties in Manhattan. It's the people who love this team with every single inch of their being, who have been so starved for success for the last 50 years, who are finally experiencing what it feels like to win a championship in New York. It's the way that the entire city, New York City, the greatest city on the globe, the fact that everyone on that island just galvanized with each other, the fact that this sense of community came together all behind the Knicks. It was just such a special story. It was a special thing to witness. And I think something that all of us, not even just sports fans, but just Americans wanted a little piece of.
It's funny because I don't believe the phrase fair weather Knicks fan really exists. They've lived through so much. They're there for every ounce of it. And usually when we see a championship, it leads to all this bandwagoning. I don't even feel like it's this. I feel like there's just tons of people that have watched this and just want to be around the party. They want to be around what this magical moment is like. They want to be around what this city vibe is. They want to be around that. When you see this photo and the absolute party vibe from every borough afterwards has been insane. Like I know, and look, I always admit my bias. Like Madison Square Garden is tattooed on my arm, not because I'm a Knicks fan, but because that arena has special meaning to me. But I think over the course of a long time, that arena's special meaning is something that became a legend. You have to tell people over and over and over again. And at some point, it's like the Loch Ness Monster. No, I promise it really exists. And people sit there, a new generation sits there and says, does it? Does it? Does it? This is the sort of moment that refuels the way that legend feels for New York basketball, for basketball in general, for Madison Square Garden, for the celebrity around it, for the magic of the city. It refuels it for the next 50 years. Like there's this point where the gas in the tank of just being able to say, trust me, this all matters, was getting really light for an entire generation that hadn't seen meaningful basketball from the Knicks in forever. And then to see them win the way they win with the stars that they won with, like you can say whatever you want, as every fan listening to this has their own opinion of every fan base. You can't question just how lovable these Knicks players have been throughout the course of this. You can't question the emotion that we saw from Jalen Brunson when he's asked immediately after the game what he's feeling. And he just takes a pause because he can't find the words. Like, those moments are so special in this society that we live in, where we sometimes feel like maybe everybody just churns and burns and goes on to the next thing. To watch Jalen Brunson stand on the court in San Antonio and just try to find the way to process his emotion reminds us what it's all about. I think that's what this championship has done. It's reminded us what it's all about. It's given hope to fans that feel like they're hopeless. It's given hope to every fan base that always thinks we're never going to get to the mountaintop. It's given hope to every single team that says, man, if the right players come here, we can do this. And it brings together a player with ties to an organization. Like, Disney couldn't write this movie, Caroline. I think that's part of why this felt bigger than just OKC winning a title. This was bigger because it connected with people at a level that wasn't just about wins and losses on the court.
It was so relatable. This sense of, we love this team and we haven't had success and we're finally experiencing it. I'm not a Knicks fan, but I found myself rooting for Knicks fans because they were experiencing this. They were finally, enjoying the greatest part of being a sports fan, and that is watching your team win and watching your team winning a championship. I wasn't necessarily rooting for or against the Knicks, but I was rooting for Knicks fans to experience this moment that I have been lucky enough to have as a sports fan. And when you feel it, feeling is indescribable. It is like you just want to bottle it up and keep it forever, of like this moment finally of all of the heartbreak and all of the losses and all of the years of watching your rivals or watching teams, do it over and over and over again. And you ask yourself, when is it going to be me? When is it going to be my time? Will it ever be my time? Seeing that happen and watching that unfold in real time for an entire city, for one of the greatest sports cities on the planet, is so incredibly special. To watch it for guys that are so easy to root for guys that are so likable because they're relatable, right? Like, I can't relate to Victor Wembanyama being 7'5", but I still wish nothing but the best for Victor Wembanyama. I'll be cheering from him from the sidelines, absolutely. But I can resonate with, I think, just the average human can resonate with the story of nobody believed in me and I proved them wrong. When Jalen Brunson got up to do his post-game press conference after game 4, a 29-point comeback, one of the biggest comebacks in NBA Finals history, largely fueled by him. And the first thing that Jalen Brunson said is giving his thoughts and prayers to a family of a Make-A-Wish child that they just lost, that he had the opportunity to speak with just a couple of weeks prior. Because Jalen Brunson is just a human. He's such a likable guy to root for. He's such a charitable person who connected so much with this New York community. And Karl Anthony Towns has mentioned his late mother throughout in-game and post-game press conferences, how he feels her presence, how he could see her in the stands, how he gave credit to her. Anyone who has lost someone can feel that, can resonate with that, and can root for him throughout that. There's just so many human emotions on this New York team that just is so easy to relate to and to cheer for. And that's just on the court. And then you add on top of the just raw human emotion of New York Knicks fans that you can see pop off the screen in the game or scrolling through videos on social media, because the videos are absolutely everywhere. And I know that there's probably a Boston Celtic fan out there rolling their eyes, a Cleveland Cavaliers fan out there thinking, ugh, this team, how can you like the New York Knicks? That, I think, is what makes it even more special. Is, look, it's New York. It's big, bad New York. Nobody roots for the Yankees the same way that it feels like the entire country has been rooting for the Knicks. And I think it's for a couple of reasons. It's because the Knicks haven't experienced the same amount of success as maybe a New York Yankees team has. I know how they haven't reached the mountaintop, but they've still been the big bad Yankees nonetheless, even without a World Series trophy. And I think it's because it feels like, even if it's not in actuality, it does feel like a ragtag bunch, this ragtag group who was finally able to put the pieces together and bring one to New York.
So much of this comes back to Jalen Brunson, too. I mean, I've said it before. I will say it again. I think it is now definitive. Jalen Brunson is the most beloved athlete in New York sports history, and I'm not sure it's even that close. And look at what it took for the Knicks to win a championship. Jalen Brunson averaged 11.2 points per game in the fourth quarter. That's the most, by the way, fourth quarter points per game in finals history ever recorded by any player. Guards with 45 points in a closeout game in the NBA Finals since the merger. There are two names on that list, Jalen Brunson and Michael Jordan. And then let's all remember the part of Jalen Brunson that I think we got to stress here. I'm looking back at a tweet that came from one Adrian Wojnarowski all the way back on July 12th of 2024. His tweet read, in a largely unprecedented financial concession to give roster flexibility to a contender, Jalen Brunson has agreed on a 4-year, $156 million extension, $113 million less guaranteed than he's eligible to receive in 1 year. Think about that. Jalen Brunson left over $100 million on the table to give the Knicks the best chance that they could have to win. And what did he do? He then backed it up. He's become the most clutch player of his generation. We know that. He continually hits every single clutch shot. He did it over Wemby, as you see in this highlight. Look at that play. That play is going to be in lore. How he got that off above the defensive player of the year, we'll never understand. He figured out the arches and angles he needed on his shots to get around Wemby in game one. And then he did it over and over and over again. And the only argument I heard going into the closeout game when I kept saying Jalen Brunson was going to be the most beloved New York athlete of all time as well, I'm not even sure Brunson's better, but maybe OG's the MVP of this. He's got to have that Brunson game. What's that Brunson game? And then what did he do? When they needed it the most, he basically gave New York half their points. You know what we're not talking about today? We're not talking about selfish basketball and keeping it too much. No. Jalen Brunson understood the assignment. He was ready for the assignment. He delivered the assignment, and he brought the Larry O.B. back to Manhattan. Yeah, he is at this point unequivocally, without question, the most beloved athlete in New York sports history.
Which is, I think, a very long list of successful, accomplished, beloved athletes in New York sports history. It's easy to say that, less than 48 hours removed from a championship, call it recency bias, but seeing the way that the entire city has galvanized behind Jalen Brunson, I don't think that you're far off. But if we're going to talk about, hierarchy of where Jalen Brunson belongs, and we talked to Richard Jefferson on the show last week, right, at the beginning of the NBA Finals. You can find that on the Yahoo Sports YouTube page if you want to catch up on the full conversation. And I asked him then, at the very beginning of the NBA Finals, where does Jalen Brunson rank amongst the most clutch players in NBA history? And Richard Jefferson said, yeah, we can have that conversation with, the Kobes, the Michaels, the closers. I'm not saying that Jalen Brunson is Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant, but he just has that gene. He has that thing that you cannot coach. He has that thing of when the spotlights are the brightest and your seat is the hottest, that's when he comes alive. His heart rate just stops, essentially, whenever everyone else's starts to race. He has that thing that those guys have. But Richard Jefferson pumped the brakes and said, well, we can have the conversation. We cannot put him in that same, breath or that same conversation as those other guys, the Kobes, the Jordans, until he wins a championship. Once you win a championship, well, then, yeah, all bets are off. We can start to have this conversation of the greatest to ever, be a clutch player, the greatest to insert blank. So, yeah, I think now you see it right there. We absolutely can not even just have the conversation. We can talk about, okay, where does he rank? Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Jalen Brunson, where do you rank the most clutch players in NBA history? It's not, I don't even think it's salacious to say anymore. When you see that, guards with 45-point closeout games in the finals, Michael Jordan, Jalen Brunson, that's it. Where does he belong amongst the most clutch players. Not even just can we have the conversation, it's where does he belong now that he has a Larry O.B.
It's also always, for me, going to come back to one of the most magical runs we've ever seen. I mean, I say magical because I don't think we need to sit here and figure out, are the Knicks the best champion? But let's remind everybody, they lost 3 games total in the playoffs by a combined 6 points. Their point differential, plus 283, which is such a random thing to have, but their point differential, plus 283, is 53 points greater than the next best ever by far. And let's remember, according to Vegas, they were the underdog in the Eastern Conference Final, and they were the underdog in the NBA Finals. Vegas got it wrong. I got it wrong going into the NBA Finals for sure. A lot of the world got it wrong. Caroline got it right, by the way. She picked the Knicks to win this series. But throughout the course of it, one thing that cannot be forgotten, this team didn't just win. They won when nobody thought they could, and they dominated throughout the course of it. Now, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So from the good to the bad. Coming up next, we'll figure out exactly how to process what we saw from a San Antonio absolute meltdown.
You have any advice that you could give to Christian Pulisic about how to handle this World Cup?
I think if he can find a zone where he is that kid again, that is on the field with his buddies, and these are his buddies, this national team, these guys are close, and just understand not overthink the opportunity and the pressure and the home World Cup, but be like, what a privilege it is for us to be on this field right now representing the United States.
He's gotta lock it in.
Right here, under 8, down by 3. It's one of the best teams, if not the best team in the league. Fired, caught, open space in front. Karan Ashley still on his feet inside the 5, touchdown! This is again why we love the indoor football league.
I was honestly like going through the free agency process for the first time, kind of like, taking it how it came to me. Had, different teams calling me up, and I feel like the Bills were the best team to help me reach my goal of winning the Super Bowl. They've been so close in the past, and as a organization, they want to get over that hump. They want to, hold up that Lombardi trophy, and that's something I wanted to do. So our goals and our visions align with that, and, I felt like it was the best spot for me.
We'll see how things go, and this is the kickoff here by Kevin Macias, who was a Sugar Skull until 2 weeks ago, and the return up to the races, Aaron Jackson, touchdown, Sugar Skulls returning the opening kickoff.
This is outstanding. And you know what's funny? So I was downstairs, and Mr. Jackson came up to me. He was like, hey, man, I appreciate you saying good things about me. I was like, look, if you make plays, I'm going to say good things. So if you want me to keep saying great things about you, keep making plays.
At the end of his press conference after the Spurs lost the NBA Finals, the quote that everybody heard, saw, and keeps talking about is Wemby standing up saying, "See y'all." Never, as he walks off the court, or walks off the podium, I should say. Much has been made about Wemby, particularly in this series, but we have to look at the Spurs overall, Caroline, because when we look at this process, everybody wants to say, okay, the Spurs will learn from it. I'm sure Wemby will learn from this experience. I know he's 22. I also feel like I'm qualifying everything about Wemby in ways that we don't qualify other superstars. As I said on the show, I don't think we'd be as graceful with LeBron if he acted the same way when he was 22 in a final. I don't think we'd be as graceful with Kobe if he acted the same way. But we're looking at this and saying, Wemby will be fine. All right, so if we believe that Wemby is going to turn around and grow from this, what does he need to prioritize the most to you?
First of all, yes, he's 22, and yes, he is a young player getting his first experience in the NBA postseason. Kind of don't really care. Because when you're the face of the league and a 7'5" unicorn, there are just certain graces that are not afforded to you. So I kind of don't really want to hear it on Wemby. But what does he need to prioritize this offseason? Learning how to close. San Antonio had a double-digit lead in every single game they lost in the NBA Finals. 14 points in games 1 and 2, 29 in game 4, and as many as 10, 12? in game 5. So that is absolutely unacceptable. No, it doesn't only fall on the shoulders of Victor Wembanyama. We always do blame pies here on this show. But you're the superstar. You're the focal point. You're the foundation of that team. You do get a portion of the blame. So, I mean, and Wemby made so many dumb mistakes, dumb turnovers late in games, throwing a ball in the back of Stephon Castle at the end of game 2, missing 2 free throws at the end of game 4 in a critical moment when the Knicks were, shaving away at that deficit. Just dumb mistakes. Especially in game 4 is when I learned that Victor Wembanyama has a lot of basketball that has left to be played and a lot of lessons left to learn. Because when he went up to the free throw line, you could see it in his eyes. The moment was too big for him. So he has to learn how to close, has to learn how to maintain leads, and has to make sure to learn how to just calm his emotions in moments when the lights get brightest.
I mean, look, I want to go back to this Wemby conversation because people keep telling me, oh, well, he's tired and it's Mitch Johnson's fault for playing him too many minutes.
I don't
can't
care.
do these things. Like, all of these are excuses that we don't make for other superstars. We just don't. And in fact, somebody broke down all of the clutch time failures of Wemby. So game 1, dribbles the ball off his foot with 50 seconds left in a turn of events that really could have cost him that game. Game 2, shoots an air ball with 1:30 left. Then terrible shots going down the court. Then we all remember the pass off of Castle's back. Also missed an open look at the buzzer that could have won the game. Game 4, after he told Mitch Robinson that he was in his head, he went 4 for 17 from the floor, missed 2 free throws, up by 1 with $1:40 to go in the game. Game 5, 1 for 5 in the fourth quarter from field goals, missed a free throw, down by 2. Ask yourself this. When was Wemby the presence he needed to be with the game on the line in game 5? Because what we saw was him get worked at the rim. What we saw was that he couldn't be present when he needed to be present. And what we saw, frankly, everybody knew it. Like, did you really want the ball in Wemby's hands going down to the wire? Because what is his thing? What is the thing he's going to do? I say this as a fan of Victor Wembanyama, but I think Victor Wembanyama was flat out exposed in this series because realistically, you knew at the end of the game, you were going to get the ball in Michael's hands. You know what Michael's going to try and do. You even knew kind of the move he was going to do it. You knew what Kobe was going to do late in the game when you need that one bucket. You have a good idea of what LeBron's going to set up when he needs that bucket. You know what his bag of tricks are. What's that thing for Wemby? Game's on the line right now. You need Wemby to make that one game-winning play. What is it? He doesn't have that magic trick. We're anointing him, not just we, but everybody has been trying, myself included, to anoint Wemby from day one of this show as the face of the NBA. You can't be the face of the NBA if you don't have that one thing that you know can't be stopped. Fact is, look at this series. What we had in this series, for all of the other people that we're going to blame for the way that this series went for San Antonio, at the end of the day, you had one superstar that every time the ball was in his hand, knew how to make something happen with it and knew how to get his team a victory. That man is Jalen Brunson. On the other side, every time the ball was in his hands inside a minute and 50, we were all just a little bit nervous that he was going to do something stupid with it. I get it. I get that he's 22. I just want consistency because I don't, I mean, I am the old man here. I do remember when we were a little harsh on Kobe, but that went away right away. I don't remember us ever giving any sort of grace like this to LeBron at any point. If we're going to anoint him with the face comes the responsibility to be your biggest in the biggest moments. And Wemby wasn't. That being said, De'Aaron Fox also deserves. Let's just get to the De'Aaron Fox portion of this, Caroline, because De'Aaron Fox definitely deserves a big old piece of blame pie in the way that the Spurs lost.
De'Aaron Fox was terrible. De'Aaron Fox was so comically bad in this series. I mean, game 4. De'Aaron Fox takes a stupid 3 when there was plenty of time left on the clock, so the Knicks were able to just get the ball back and continue to kind of scratch away at that deficit. Other end of the floor, we all know the photo that will live forever in New York City and NBA lore of OG Anunoby tipping that ball in to win 107 to 106. And De'Aaron Fox is standing right there looking at him with his finger in his nose, just like, what happened? De'Aaron Fox had his back to OG Anunoby when he was going up for that Jalen Brunson rebound. Like, in what world is that acceptable? Like, we have a long, long, long list of things that De'Aaron Fox did that weren't just bad, but were utterly mind-numbing. So I don't think that San Antonio has an option this offseason other than to trade De'Aaron Fox. You cannot pay that man $55 million plus every single year through 2030. You cannot do that. You cannot justify paying him that much money when he's just going to stand there and hurt you in the biggest games and in the biggest moments. That's what he did in the finals. De'Aaron Fox was brought in to San Antonio to be the adult in the room, to be a veteran presence, a guy that's been there before and can calm down 20-year-old Dylan Harper and 22-year-old Victor Wembanyama. He was supposed to be the one that's like, no, guys, we got this. He can be, that veteran presence. But he wasn't. So if you can't do what you were brought in to do, I cannot pay you a premium to do it and just hope that you can level up next season. As you just saw right there, De'Aaron Fox, 29 years old. He is what he is. He's not getting any better. I don't know what a market looks like for De'Aaron Fox. I don't know what a return looks like for De'Aaron Fox. I just don't think that San Antonio has any other option this offseason other than to shop him.
I just struggle to know why anybody would go acquire him. And sometimes you're just stuck because you're right. Everything you just said was right, Caroline, but sometimes you're stuck.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, if we're in the summer and everybody's going to go out to their public pool and they're going to hang out, they're going to have a great time, right? Sometimes people have accidents in the pool and you end up with poop water. When you end up with poop water, you don't get to just throw the pool away. Unfortunately, you're just stuck. So you got to wait. You got to clean the pool out. You got to put the water back in. And then you just got to hope it doesn't happen again. I think that's where they are. I think they just got to hope it doesn't happen again. I don't know how you find any market value. I don't know how you find any return. I can't believe I just gave this analogy live. At some point, Caroline, as bad as it's been for De'Aaron Fox, the money is so bad. Any team that reaches to acquire De'Aaron Fox will look stupid. Because if De'Aaron Fox is a liability for a championship contender, then he's a liability for a bad team too. So you're going to go out and pay a ton of money to a liability that even on a stacked roster melted in the biggest moments and looked incompetent. Now, I think as frustrated as we all are, just like we were frustrated with Chet, I don't think that there's going to be change here. I think De'Aaron Fox is going to be right back where he was in San Antonio, and he's going to have to hope to God that he can come out and have the best games of his life just to get this stink out of everybody's minds.
It was stink. It was
bad.
To your point, some stinky poop water right there with De'Aaron Fox. And that is always what I try and couch with sports fans, after a failure. I think it's fair to say De'Aaron Fox was a failure in this NBA final series. It's just because you want to get rid of this guy doesn't mean that there's a market for him. Like, you think that any other team is going to be chomping at the bit to acquire the same guy that you want to get rid of? Like, no, that's not how things work. That's not how business works. I just don't know what San Antonio or how San Antonio can sell to their fan base that has a rising superstar. I think it's still, even after the NBA Finals, I'm still going to call Victor Wembanyama a rising superstar because I still think that's what he is. You don't lose one final series and all of a sudden a 7'5" alien who does something that we've never seen before is just trash and you just throw him away. So I don't know how you sell to your fan base, to a guy that did nothing but hurt you in an NBA Finals series with a championship on the line. How do you sell to your fan base that, we're going to bring him back and we're just going to hope that things are going to be better next year? Hope doesn't work for me in a sports franchise, especially when San Antonio expects to be back where they were this past season next year and many, many years after. And a West that's not getting any easier.
The only thing I would say is, didn't we just learn? Because certainly you could argue that Mitch Johnson needs to be fired. You could argue that De'Aaron Fox needs to be traded. And Wemby certainly needs a lot of development.
Can you argue that Mitch Johnson needs to be fired?
I think some people are arguing that. Yeah, I wouldn't go there. But with De'Aaron Fox, didn't we just learn from New York that sometimes the best thing to do is just block out the noise and keep doing you? Because certainly 6 months ago, everybody was ready to trade Cat. Everybody was ready to rip this whole thing apart. We walked into the playoffs asking, could Mike Brown even keep his job? And all of a sudden, Mike Brown's a champion. Cat was instrumental in their run. Like, sometimes it does take a minute, and I'm with you. I think if the money were easy, I would support moving on from De'Aaron Fox. But I think instead, the narrative that we are going to be fed is, hey, if the Knicks taught us anything, it's that believe in your process, believe in your players, believe in your system, and you'll be just fine. I don't know that I believe in that with De'Aaron Fox. And if I was a Spurs fan, I don't know how I'd feel about that first game that he comes out on the court again. But I think that there is at least enough proof of concept that we see De'Aaron Fox start the next season with San Antonio. You're good with Mitch staying, though, right? Like, I think we both agree that Mitch Johnson did not have a good series, but also Mitch Johnson is their coach.
Mitch Johnson did not have a good series. Want to bring that all roads lead to De'Aaron Fox for me. I think Mitch Johnson, one of his biggest errors in this finals was continuing to put De'Aaron Fox out on the floor for 35 to 40 minutes a game. I'm looking around like, where is Dylan Harper? If there was a beacon of hope for any Spurs fans out there, it is 20-year-old Dylan Harper playing like he's been there before. So why is the ball in De'Aaron Fox's hands in so many late game situations and not Dylan Harper? I get it. I get it. He's a rookie. De'Aaron Fox has been there before, but Dylan Harper was, I think, more of a face of consistency than anybody else on that team. So I think that was a failure on Mitch Johnson to leave De'Aaron Fox out on the floor as much as he did when you had a guy who was as hot and as comfortable in the moment as Dylan Harper was. There were just certain adjustments that Mitch Johnson didn't make. It felt like Mike Brown at times just had so much more confidence in what his team was going to do than Mitch Johnson was. But I think that overall, I mean, like, Mitch Johnson is your head coach. You get to the NBA Finals. Yes, it was a bad series, but he's your coach.
So from the ultimate failure to the ultimate success, I think the chants of USA are still ringing in my head. Taylor Twellman going to join us next. We'll get his thoughts on what the USMNT did on Friday night.
There was a big bright light shining on the hall, and I saw these two figures, and they were coming. I couldn't see who they were. It was just like dark, shadowy figures. And then we walked past them, and I was just talking to Jeff, and they were talking about before we started signing about how it goes. And then grabbed me from behind. He's like, hey, he says, you're not even going to say hello to me? You're doing that? And it was Taker. I said, I had no idea it was you, but that's so cool. It's so good to see you, man. I gave him a hug, and I said, man, I got to tell you, I said, I'm super excited for you, man. Are you excited for Dave Meltzer to give you the Booker of the Year award? And he said, shut up,
How do you sort of take your game to the next level in what is now a split backfield?
Yeah, you always need a split backfield running back. We take a lot of hits. We get hit every play, either for you blocking or running. And I say Montgomery, he been doing a great job just going off of just learning my style of play, me learning his style of play, learning new things. You always need a tandem 1-2 punch in the backfield. Sometimes you need a 3-punch. So just getting that in, and we just getting to work right now.
Got to get a touchdown on this possession. Stepping up Garrett. Garrett surveying. He wants it all. End zone Flavors is there, but it's pulled away by Cook. Cook pulled it out of the air and out of the hands of Flavors for a Northern Arizona touchdown.
That just happened. In my mind, I'm thinking INT, ball game's over. Marlon Cook says, give me this. I need it.
Myles Garrett traded to the Rams. They're trying to live in two worlds where they've got an eye on the future with the quarterback they took this year, but also clearly, maybe more than any other team we've seen, trying to push here for a Super Bowl, which the burden of expectations is going to be tough on that team this year. Like, it is, sometimes I kind of roll my eyes at the Super Bowl or bust idea, but this really is like, that's it. Like, Super Bowl or bust. Everything else it would be a failure of a season.
Opening statement, and a statement it was. The USMNT absolutely dominates Paraguay 4-1 on Friday night. I am still just in my feels from the watch party. Yahoo Sports World Cup contributor Taylor Twellman joins us. Taylor, we knew it would go right. We thought it would go right. We hoped it would go right. What made it go that right in game one for Friday night?
It's a great question, because obviously it's been, you could say, 3.5 years where we've waited to see whether or not this group is ready for the moment. And you could make an argument that We never saw it in 3.5 years with the struggles that happened in Copa America, changing of the manager, all of that. There was a culmination of three things. There was a real purpose to how they played. There was a real intent. But the word I keep using to really help everyone understand, there was an energy, a relentless energy from minute 1 to the 90th minute. And I'm not sure I can remember an energy that hit that level. Now, I also think the conversation should then transpire to this. That should be the standard. If that is the standard, now the U.S. men can really do something in major tournaments, in big moments. But the statement was made that this golden generation of player that we've all labeled them, they understood the magnitude of the moment. They understood the amount of pressure that was on them. And they laid the groundwork for what could be a really, really good tournament.
All of those words were my exact takeaways. And they wasted no time doing it, right? This team was shot out of a cannon in the very first minute against Paraguay. It was, heavy passing. Every time they didn't have possession of the ball, it was relentless pursuit of getting the ball back. But that level of intensity of play might be hard to sustain throughout the entirety of a season. But is that style of play actually perfect for a shorter tournament like the World Cup?
Yes, it depends, right? Liverpool won the Premier League years ago under Jurgen Klopp, but they had arguably 2.5 players to each position, right? And so that allows you to just sustain that over a 55, 60 game season with European competition integrated throughout the Premier League. It depends on your roster. For a tournament like the World Cup, absolutely. Now, the caveat to that is what is the weather? What is the climate like? So SoFi Stadium is climate controlled. So maybe 100 degrees outside, doesn't matter. It's 75 degrees inside. You're going to Seattle now to play Australia in a much more conducive climate to do that. So you are absolutely correct in saying that it's a little bit easier to do that in a season. Now, if Christian Pulisic can't play against Australia, that becomes a little bit of a different angle, a little bit of a different tactical mindset on how you can be vertical without Pulisic on the field and all of that. But there just was a real commitment to understanding what the game was, but also understanding what the occasion was. And it's very difficult to pinpoint more than 3 or 4 times where the U.S. men have delivered on both of those. You could probably make an argument that was one of them.
Chris Richards, I love this number, completed all 83 of his passes in the win, right? And that's the most by a player with perfect passing accuracy since 1966 in a World Cup. This is what I need your expertise on. Was that a statement about the way, particularly the USA, is capable of moving the ball, or was that a Paraguay issue?
Can I say both?
So I will allow it, yes.
Yes, I think it's both. And here's why I say that. Listen, those numbers are awesome, and that stands out. Absolutely. First player since 1966. You hold your head on that. But what I want other people to understand is he's a center back. So if Paraguay is not pressuring him, if the opposition is not really putting him under pressure, then he really shouldn't misplace a pass. Now, good on Chris. 83 passes. He didn't misplace one. That's fantastic. That's awesome. He's in the lineup, and he is the most important defender on the team because of what he does in transition, what he does with his recognition of the space off the ball. He's not on there for passing. It's great that he can pass the ball. It's great that he can break lines and keep the flow going. But what if a team comes out and tries to punch the United States in the face and tries to high press? He's going to misplace passes. That's the least of my worries as long as he's chasing players on the counter and he's defending. Australia is very good on the counter. They exposed Turkey in those moments. Chris Richards is going to have to be their best defender in those transitional moments. That is way more important to me than whether or not he can pass a ball over 6 to 7 yards. I'm not downplaying it. I'm just giving you context. Paraguay said to Chris Richards, we're going to allow you to pass the ball and you can do what you want. I'm not sure Australia and Turkey are going to do that now, having watched what the United States did.
We like to do on this show blame and credit pies. Like everybody gets a little bit of a slice in a win and in a loss. How large of a slice of the credit pie are you giving to Mauricio Pochettino for that win over Paraguay?
Well, so what are we looking at? 100% of the pie, right? So you're looking for me to give you a percentage. Listen, players win games. I don't care what anyone tries to tell you. I don't care what anyone tries to tell you in the NBA Finals. The Spurs lost it because the players played bad in moments. If Fox doesn't do the layup in game 4, they don't lose that game, or game 5, whatever it was. This is what I'm getting at. Pochettino pushed all the right buttons, and Pochettino got this team believing. And so if you want to say it's 60-40, sure, absolutely. But if Pulisic isn't unplayable in the first half, if Weston McKennie and Tyler Adams aren't dominating the midfield, I don't care who the manager is. The players have to deliver the message. They have to execute what the tactical plan is. So give me Pochettino 45% and the players 55%. He absolutely pushed all the right buttons. Players win games, and he knows that better than anyone, as he was a player himself.
Okay, so you mentioned the Pulisic injury. What now? What's the right approach? How risk versus reward putting him back on the field against Australia?
Well, the problem is Australia just literally beat Turkey, right? So that surprised a lot of people, including myself. Now, Australia believed they could win. Turkey believed they should win, and that's a big difference. And at the highest level, it's a game of the finest margins, and that caught Turkey. Turkey by surprise. They outshot Australia 20-some-odd nut shots to whatever, 6 or 7, and yet Australia wins that game. Now, all of a sudden, this game becomes massive for the United States and Australia, because if either one wins, they win the group more than likely. And so that becomes huge. Also, Turkey now is desperate in that final game. Pulisic, in my opinion, has to be 100%, because you've given yourself a little bit of a platform to now play the cards that you've been dealt. If he is at all uncertain, you have to have him 100% for Turkey. And I think with how Australia is going to play the United States, you can still beat them without Pulisic, but you've got to play your cards right, and he's got to be 100% honest with the medical staff that he's right. If he's right, you roll the dice and you let it go, because they were really, really good in the first 45 minutes the other night.
And after the game, Pulisic, Pochettino, both of them were kind of downplaying the injury. He was saying, hey, this has happened to me before. It should be no problem. You've played the sport, Taylor. Is it as laissez-faire as an injury as maybe Pulisic made it out to be, or could it be something larger?
No, I mean, so first off, he's saying that a week before the next game. And so I as anything, I've seen players, Adrian Peterson caught me off guard when he came back from an ACL injury. What was it, 4 months? Like, it depends on the individual. I don't care what the protocol is. I don't care what the individual athlete recovers at certain rates. You could tell that it was something because he would have played coming out at halftime. But you could also tell they knew they probably made the right decision up 3-0, and it was a knock. But make no mistake about it, today is Monday. It's 10 o'clock in the morning here on the East Coast. He might be more sore than he thought he would be. I just think they made the right decision. It's a day-by-day thing. It doesn't sound like it was a pull. It sounds like it was more of a kick, and that usually makes it easier to recover.
All right, so we're going to do something with the every Monday as we go through the World Cup, where we go through the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I think we can all agree we're going to make USMNT the good, right? Like we're all on cloud 9 still. So give me your bad and give me your ugly from the opening weekend of the World Cup.
The bad was Brazil. Really bad. And I was in the building when they lost in the World Cup semifinal in 2014 against Germany 7-1. And since that moment, the 5-time world champions have lost their edge. They've lost their mojo. They lost the aura of that yellow kit when they walk onto the field with the blue shorts and the white socks that traditionally scared the living you-know-what out of everybody. They've lost that. They were completely outplayed by Morocco. They don't look like they're a contender. They've lost the ingenuity that makes Brazil the country that produces the most professional soccer players, football players in the world. They've lost that. They are easily the bad, and there's going to be real pressure on them in game 2. The ugly is this, and I hate being the wet blanket, but Curacao losing 7-1 now makes that group and the tournament very different. Awesome. First ever World Cup match. First ever goal at the World Cup. Nothing better. But you lost 7-1. And the number one tiebreaker for third place teams going through, guys, is points and then goal differential. So now Ivory Coast, now Ecuador know that if they play Curacao at the same rate that Germany did, they're going through. You've kind of changed the integrity of the competition by going to 48 teams. The ugly isn't Curacao. The ugly is the fact that at 48 teams, we may have a few minnows that are swimming upstream and they shouldn't be in the water.
Wow. Sad for a team who's making their World Cup debut in Curacao. Now,
I don't think they care, though. I don't think they care. I think they enjoyed it.
Just happy to be here. I get it. I understand it. Fans of the USMNT will have to wait until Friday to watch their team in action, but plenty of World Cup action until then. What's one game or a couple of matchups that you're going to keep an eye on until then?
The two heavy favorites, right? You look at France and you look at Spain. They are the betting favorites. They are the most talented teams in the World Cup, and I get it. Argentina and Messi, the defending champions, obviously the gravity pull that he has within the world game, eyes will be on there. But France-Senegal is a brilliant game. I think Senegal is an underdog in this tournament to create a little bit of havoc, and Spain is the favorite. They have the most talent. They've got the best young player in the world. I'm keeping an eye on France, Spain, and what kind of statements they make in their opening game in the group stage.
Well, you're our favorite. You can check out Taylor Twellman hanging out with us 3 times a week. He'll be back with us Wednesday and Friday, getting you caught up on everything you need to know for the Cup. Twellman, always appreciate your time, my friend. Thanks for the insight on it. Can't wait to see you again on Wednesday.
See you guys. And by the way, I wasn't driving. I was parked. It was perfect. I was very safe.
I was very proud of you for that. Safety first. Safety
Fighting
first.
by road rules.
Get back on the road. Oh, Taylor Twellman. Oh, making everybody's heart stop there. Great work by him. Speaking of great work, Rob Brindamore and the Canes just made great work of Vegas. They are your Stanley Cup champions. We'll break it down.
Why is it still difficult for the U.S., especially the U.S. men's national team, to sort of be this bigger power?
I think there's two things. One, you can't price out the working class from games, and it covers every culture, every demographic. Also, you have to inspire, right? You need a product on the field that makes people want to go spend that money to watch you play, right? And so I think that's the two things that you're kind of dancing with.
Possibly for one of those RPO type plays where you put it in Tomas's gut, but you see the sticky coverage on the outside, trying not to allow for easy completions.
From the 16, they send the blitz. He lofts it, corner of the end zone. What a catch against the wall. Quentin Randolph.
Problem was, this is good coverage. You just got to continue to run. Right there, you see Page kind of give up on it.
Mike Leach revolutionizes offense in the SEC with the air raid. Bob Stoops gets the Oklahoma job. He calls the guy whose offense drove him the craziest, who makes Mike Leach's offensive coordinator at Oklahoma. That works really well. Texas Tech hires Mike Leach. That changed high school football in the state of Texas. Meanwhile, you had players from Texas Tech going into the NFL saying, hey, here's what we did. He changed football at every level.
1:18 to play, third quarter, pumps once, Delora rolls. Delora calling out for his receivers, back across the field, wide open, McKee, inside the 10, Seneca McKee, angles for the end zone, touchdown, Nighthawks.
But he keeps the play alive and just finds the backside. McKee with the great finish. Phenomenal job right there by Delora.
An absolute dominant performance in a clinching game on the road. The Carolina Hurricanes are Stanley Cup champions for the first time since 2006. This was a statement win for a team that, frankly, Carolina had not lost back-to-back games since January 13th. This wasn't an accident. This was a Carolina team that was a juggernaut all season long. And even though the beginning of this series was an all-time classic, we sat there after 3 games saying, oh my God, at some point, Carolina separated. And in Vegas's building, they reminded the Golden Knights, whose boss they hoist Lord Stanley's cup.
I am so happy for this team, and I am so happy for Carolina Hurricane fans snapping a 20-year Stanley Cup drought, which, even cooler, Rod Brind'Amour, Carolina's head coach, was actually the captain of that Carolina team when they won in 2006. So a nice little full circle moment there for Hurricanes fans and for Rod Brind'Amour himself. But the Carolina Hurricanes have been a consistent championship contender every single year for the last decade. Only 1 year have they missed the postseason. They have consistently been knocking on the door of a championship, getting to Eastern Conference Finals, having long runs in the postseason, at least finding themselves in the postseason. But every single year, it felt like they either ran into a wagon or just fell short. And when you constantly knock on the door but can't break through, this thought starts to creep in, maybe into a franchise, but for a fan base of when it's never going to happen for us. So for a team that has, so much history to it, with Rod Brind'Amour winning a championship 20 years ago, almost to the day, for a franchise that has had so much recent success but no championships, that constantly getting there but not getting to the mountaintop and finally breaking through, I'm so happy for them. I'm happy for the NHL, for a non-traditional market breaking through and winning a championship. I'm so happy for Jordan Staal, who's been there for the last 13, 14 years, 37 years old, somebody who's been around for a lot of success in Carolina, finally getting to break through there, winning the Conn Smythe. I'm so happy for this team that it felt like anyone could have won a Conn Smythe. I thought this Conn Smythe trophy voting was going to be fascinating. Could have been Nikolai Ehlers, who was huge in game 4 of this series. You had obviously Jordan Staal, Andrei Svechnikov, who had 3 goals in this series. You had so many contributors. So happy for Brandon Bussi, a guy who this time last year had never even played in an NHL game, much less a Stanley Cup Finals game, and he blanked the Vegas Golden Knights in Game 6 on the path to a championship. So I'm so happy for this fan base. I'm so happy for this organization. They were one of the better teams, if not the best team in the NHL for a majority of the season, and they finally break through and win one.
Now, look, first and foremost, Rod Brind'Amour, I can't say enough incredible things about. You mentioned the fact that he's he hoisted the cup as a player. Now he hoists the cup as a coach. Also tarps off in the locker room. I don't know if you've seen this, but at 55, Brind'Amour looks like he could still get out on the ice and kick everybody's ass. Jacked. I mean, Rod Brind'Amour is jacked. And just look at him and the joy.
That's
there,
a heavy trophy.
100%, that's a heavy trophy. Also, credit the Carolina Hurricanes organization. This is, to your point, you mentioned the fact that they're always good but haven't quite gotten there. He's been the coach for 8 years. How many other teams do we see decide they're going to move on from the coach because it's just not enough? I fully expect Vegas is going to look at everything in their operations because that's what they do every time they don't win a cup. Everybody's job is on the line. But I look at Tom Dundon, an owner that gets absolutely trashed all the time in the NBA. Understand it's a different sport. But Tom Dundon has proven to be the absolute perfect owner for an NHL franchise. He's handled this with patience. He's let them figure this thing out piece by piece. He's let them bring this team together the right way, and they've built something special. Jordan Staal is somebody, he becomes the oldest player ever to win the Conn Smythe MVP trophy, which is in and of itself a tremendous accomplishment. He was unstoppable. Carolina did everything the right way. And I cannot stress this enough. Rod Brind'Amour flat out kicked Tort's ass. Anyone that watched this series, John Tortorella, the coach for the Vegas Golden Knights, didn't have answers. John Tortorella, in fact, just questioned. Look at this. Look at this. Look at that, Caroline. Look at him. I mean, look at that. I'm sorry.
Jacked.
Are we doing He-Man 2 auditions here? What do we? Look at that. Not an
Get
ounce
that
of
man
body
on
fat.
skates.
Lifting that thing like it's 4 pounds.
Get him out there.
God, ripping that good Lord, I'm jealous of Rod the Pod. Well done by the Carolina
okay?
Hurricanes. No, I don't know.
You need a minute?
I got goals. That's what I got. I'm looking at Brind'Amour and I'm like, how many years to get to Brind'Amour? Okay, I'm never going to be Rod the Bod, but he absolutely annihilated Torts. And I think a big part of this that history needs to remember is he was willing, whether it was because of injury or instinct, however we got there, putting Bussy in to this game, putting Bussy into this series changed everything. Remember, Vegas was at a spot where it looked like they were dominating. And we saw a couple of historic comebacks from Carolina. They were hanging on by a thread. And Brandon Bussy comes into this thing with no expectation, plays well enough in the third that they decide he's going to play the next game. Again, I don't know if that's injury or if that's coach's decision. But either way, Rob Brind'Amour either had him ready or was prepared to make that change. Torts was never prepared to look at sitting Carter Hart, who became the first goalie in NHL history to give up 4 or more goals in 5 consecutive cup games. Hart played fine in game 6, but still, I kept watching this thing thinking, man, you gave your team a chance with the decisions that you made. Brind'Amour had the right lineups. He put the right lines together. He found a way to pressure the net consistently. He found a way to get Stahl constantly in. They were doing so much motion around the net in general. The Vegas defenders often looked a step slow and a step behind, and Torts never had an answer to this. So I look at Brind'Amour particularly and say, hey, for all the credit, because we'd love to give out these pies, for all the credit we give Carolina and Rob Brind'Amour specifically, sticking with him, letting him become the organization, letting him be the face of what they're doing, creating the culture. And then the fact is, he just kicked everybody's butt. He was an elite difference maker for his team from the bench. I think you cannot give him enough flowers in this win.
1000%. And we've heard it. We've heard some of the rumblings over the last couple of years of Rod Brind'Amour's system. You can't win a championship with Rod Brind'Amour's system, that he's not the right guy, that you need to make some of those changes. And look, I think the Vegas Golden Knights are a perfect example of, if you make a change, even if it is a little questionable, sometimes it can pay off. Obviously, Vegas didn't win a championship this year, but getting to the Stanley Cup final just months after you fire your head coach, I think that's a great testament to what John Tortorella was able to do up until this point. You know, in hockey, the leash and the leeway for a head coach is not very long. That's the reason why you see so many head coaches with several different stops. You know, I used to work with somebody who was a play-by-play broadcaster in the NHL, and he always used to say that NHL coaches, Papa was a Rolling Stone, because their shelf life is not very long. They come in for a couple of years, and after just one or a couple of seasons falling short in the postseason or not even making the postseason, then they're out and they're on to their next stop. So for Rod Brind'Amour to be there, to your point, for the last 8 years, even without a Stanley Cup, I think is a testament to the belief that the front office has in Rod Brind'Amour, and the understanding that sometimes these things just take time. But if you have a head coach that can consistently get you knocking on the door to a championship, eventually, just due to the laws of physics and hockey, you are going to break through. So to have the patience and the belief in Rod Brind'Amour is part of the reason why the Carolina Hurricanes can now call themselves Stanley Cup champions this year. I think the other thing that might make Carolina pretty intimidating for years to come is that they have so much of their core that's under contract for the next several years. They locked up Sebastian Aho until 2031. Seth Jarvis is under contract until 2031. Andrei Svechnikov under contract for the next 2 years. Jacob Slavin under contract for the next 5 to 6 years. I mean, Freddie Anderson is really the only big part of this core whose contract is up after this season. And I don't think that if you're Carolina, you're going to run it back with Brandon Bussy for the entirety of the 2026-2027 season. But right now, this core is under contract for the next several years. So Carolina is in a really healthy and comfortable financial position to find themselves right back here next season.
Vegas change is likely coming. That's always the way things run in Vegas. Their expectation is championships, and immediately, even after the loss, there was some speculation for people that cover the team that they'll be looking at massive changes, because that's what Vegas does. It should be noted, interestingly for Vegas, over half of their roster, as we all know, was acquired via trade. So the draft doesn't really matter. They don't even have a first or second round draft pick. Where that starts to catch up, you would think for most teams, is the fact that Vegas has a little less than $5 million under the salary cap, and they do have some decisions to make. But the fact is, Vegas always seems to find a way to figure it out. God only knows how they always seem to find a way to figure it out. But Vegas is not built for what we're used to in traditional hockey. You're used to a farm system that brings your guys up and everybody takes their time. That's just not what Vegas does. Vegas goes out and tries to find a way to acquire talent. They're going to have to do that, but also understand that man you see right there, John Tortorella, originally was hired just to get them through the playoffs. I don't know that anyone expected that would take them all the way to the Stanley Cup final. So what gets interesting is now most of the bench coaches that they're looking at have already been hired. I'm not sure who the right person is. Maybe they're going to try and keep Torts. That wasn't originally part of the concept. If not, they're late to the hiring cycle, and they've got to figure out an offseason where they don't have a ton of cap space. But again, Caroline, I will say, just a reminder, part of the reason a lot of people hate the Golden Knights is they don't seem to worry about development. They don't seem to ever worry about the draft. They don't seem to worry about anything normal teams worry about. I'm not even sure why they pay for a farm system, because who knows if they're ever going to use it. Vegas basically goes out every year like they're playing video game hockey, but it continually puts them in or near the Stanley Cup. Third time in 9 years. They've lost or won the Stanley Cup every single time they've been there on their home ice. But it should be noted, they've now lost twice in these Stanley Cup finals. So if you are Vegas, you're going to have to figure out some way to tinker around some things. You're going to have to work some contracts. You're probably going to look at trading some people to try and bring in more superstars, because that's all they do.
I think you have a big decision with Carter Hart to make. He's under contract until the end of next season. I don't know what a trade market might look like for Carter Hart, coming off the heels of statistically the worst performance for a goalie that we have ever seen in the Stanley Cup final. But that will be one that I'm watching that I find fascinating. What does Vegas do with Carter Hart?
Yeah, either Carter Hart or Aiden Hill has to go somewhere, I would think. I don't think they want two high-priced goalies. Plenty of offseason fun to come, but coming up, a legend is going to join us next. That man, CC Sabathia, joining the show. Can't wait.
Do you have any advice that you could give to Christian Pulisic about how to handle this World Cup?
I think if he can find a zone where he is like that kid again that is on the field with his buddies, and these are his buddies, this national team, these guys are close, and just understand not overthink the opportunity and the pressure and the home World Cup, but be like, what a privilege it is for us to be on this field right now representing the United States.
He's gotta lock it in.
Right here, under 8, down by 3. It's one of the best teams, if not the best team in the league. Fired, caught, open space in front. Karan Ashley still on his feet inside the 5, touchdown! This is again why we love the indoor football league.
I was honestly going through the free agency process for the first time, kind of taking it how it came to me. Had different teams calling me up, and I feel like the Bills were the best team to help me reach my goal of winning the Super Bowl. They've been so close in the past, and as a organization, they want to get over that hump. They want to hold up that Lombardi Trophy, and that's something I wanted to do. So our goals and our visions align with that, and I felt like it was the best spot for me.
We'll see how things go, and this is the kickoff here by Kevin Misiorowski, who was a Sugar Skull until 2 weeks ago, and the return up to the races, Aaron Jackson, touchdown, Sugar Skulls returning the opening kickoff.
This is outstanding. And you know what's funny? So I was downstairs, and Mr. Jackson came up to me. He was like, hey, man, I appreciate you saying good things about me. I was like, look, if you make plays, I'm going to say good things. So if you want me to keep saying great things about you, keep making plays.
So while you guys were watching World Cup and NBA and Stanley Cup and all of these things, Jacob Misiorowski did the unthinkable. He threw 9th complete game of 1 or no hits in franchise history. Hall of Famer CC Sabathia was the last to do it, 8/31/08 in Pittsburgh. Miz, the second Brewer to do it without a walk. He threw an incredible night, 15 Ks in this thing, just an absolute epic night. Last time we saw that was CC Sabathia, who, by the way, joins us right now to talk all things MLB, Hall of Famer, MLB champion, Cy Young Award winner, just absolute epic in every possible way. CC Sabathia joins us. All right, Miz has become a phenomenon. When you see somebody that throws that hard, that much, what do you see in him?
Oh, man, I mean, I'm just excited for him, having a chance to, be on the run that he's on. I think, with the stuff that he's got, if he can just throw the ball over the plate, which he has, figured out the last, 2 months, he's going to be pretty much unhittable. That was at that start that he had against the Yankees that night. He came out just electric, just throwing, heater after heater, but like actually just challenging, guys in the strike zone. I think it's been the biggest thing. I mean, in the month of May, I think he had, 4 walks or 5 walks, like, something like that. So when you throw the ball that hard and you throwing it over the plate and challenging guys, it's going to be hard for guys to pick it up. And obviously you see the run he's been on.
I want to ask our lovely producers to leave this up there for just a moment because I think we have to talk about that. Pitches 103 miles an hour or faster by a starting pitcher in all of Major League Baseball history. We had Jordan Hicks with 2, Justin Verlander with 1, Jacob Misiorowski 39 and counting. That is absolutely ridiculous. Cece, is the Miz getting enough credit? Are we not appreciating him enough?
Oh, being able to throw, 39 fastballs over basically 104 miles an hour. We could talk about the stats all day, right? And what he's able to do and how hard he's able to throw. But, like I said, for me, the most thing that the thing that I'm impressed by him more right now is just how he's throwing the ball over the plate and being able to throw strikes and challenging guys in the strike zone. But yeah, we can go all day with his numbers and Statcast era and as many fastballs. I think he threw like 57 fastballs over 100 miles an hour in the start, which is something nobody's ever done. So we can keep going with the Statcast for sure.
Well, educate me though, CC, because when you have that one trick in your resume, you have that one magic trick that nobody can stop, all right? It's unbelievable for him. But then people tell me, man, throwing that hard all the time can later in his career come back to haunt him. How much, when you're a pitcher and you're that good at this thing, how much do you have to worry about everything else in the future when you're doing this right now so well?
I don't think there's nothing for him to worry about. This is something that comes natural to him. He's always been a big guy. If you've seen him, he's got broad shoulders. He's a big pitcher. And, I don't worry about guys starting pitchers that are big. I worry about the guys that are smaller, that don't have really kind of any weight to them. It's easier for those type of guys to get hurt. But, the way the Miz is built, I think he'll be fine, down the line. And, if you actually watch him, he's throwing the ball as hard as he can, but he's kind of under control. So he's not, putting himself at risk to really get hurt. And, as long as he can stay healthy, stay in his routine, he can do this as long as possible.
How have you seen, as somebody who had so much success pitching in the major leagues, how have you seen the evolution of young pitchers change over time?
It's different right now. You get a guy, you tell him to come in and just throw as hard as he can. You throw your best stuff as hard as you can for, 60 to 80 pitches, and then we get somebody else to come in behind you. When I came up, it was, the art of trying to go through the lineup 2 or 3 times and, trying to figure out what you had that day to, try to get, deep as possible into the game. I think the art of, pitching and hitting has kind of changed. And, you see a lot more guys, that the game Misiorowski just pitched the other day, he threw 95 pitches, had 15 strikeouts. That was something that, wasn't happening back in the day, where you could, throw under 100 pitches and have over 10 plus Ks. It's just the way that these guys are taught to swing the bat, the philosophy of hitting, and the really good pitchers, the guys that know how to attack the strike zone. It's easier for them to get outs now.
So let's talk a little bit of Yankees. You know them better than anybody. Aaron Judge sidelined indefinitely with the rib stress fracture. I know Yankees fans are always incredibly patient. We know that's not true. How panicked should Yankees fans be about their World Series chances with their captain not in the lineup right now?
Yeah, it's always tough, when you lose a hitter like Judge. He's, the best hitter in the league. Obviously, he's gone, you lose a lot of offense when he's not around. And just leadership, right? When he's not around every day. But I think they have enough depth, to hold the boat and hold to be able to at least win the American League East. I mean, they should have enough depth. Hopefully, Ben Rice can step up. Um, Spencer Jones to get a lot of playing time. If Jazz Chisholm can start hitting. I know Big G had a setback running the bases the other day, but if he can get back healthy, they have a chance to kind of hold the tide until Judge can get back in September or whenever he's coming back.
Outside of the Yankees, not a great season for the American League. As of today, only 5 teams in the AL above 500. But if there is one team in the American League that you view as maybe the biggest threat to the New York Yankees this season, who would it be?
I think it's got to be Tampa. I mean, and especially being in that same division. If they can add maybe something at the trade deadline, maybe one more big hitter. They may have a chance to overtake the Yankees. Yandy Diaz has been playing great. I mean, Junior Caminero is a superstar. So if they can add a little bit more pop, I think they'll have a chance to be able to overtake the Yankees. But right now, I mean, that's probably the only team I see. If Seattle's got a great roster, they got good pitching. I think if you look at them on paper, they should be a favorite in the American League, but they just seem like they can't put it together every year until late.
All right, CC, speaking of championships, we just watched the New York Knicks win one. You know New York so well. Does Jalen Brunson now actually leap over Derek Jeter as the most beloved New York athlete of all time with the championship for the Knicks?
I don't know about all time. I mean, G's got 5 championships, but this is a basketball town. I think for the longest time, people have been starving for the Knicks to be good. I mean, I was telling this to my friend the other day. There's different combinations of New York fans, right? You could be a Mets, Jets, Islanders fan, but the one thing that you guys are that New York is all united by is the Knicks. You could be a Yankees and Giants fan, but with your basketball team, it's always the Knicks. So, seeing the city, the way it ignited, the way Brunson and those guys played, throughout the finals. I was at Game 4 with that big comeback. I mean, the city is on fire. I definitely think. He's probably I think he's the biggest Knick of all time for sure right now. And he wins one more, you can put him over Jeter.
So what's it like in that city? Because you can be a legendary player for other franchises and other cities, but when you were in New York and you're playing and you guys are that good, what's it like when you achieve legend status in sports in New York?
Yeah, I mean, it's different here in New York City. I mean, even with the parade, having a chance to go to the Canyon Heroes and understand, the different people that have parades in that, section of this city. It's incredible. And like I said, the whole city's gonna be out. I mean, this city's been starving for the Knicks to be great. It's been 53 years, I guess, since they won the championship. And you know, I think it's just great that, like I said, everybody's united by the Knicks. Everybody's a Knicks fan from Jersey down all the way to almost Philly. It's Knicks fans. So I'm excited to see what this parade is going to be like for these guys.
I would say those poor Nets fans out there. Nobody's talking about the Nets. There's no Nets fans out there. It's the Knicks. And the Knicks are New York's team. Do you want to go back to your time with the New York Yankees? Because just last year, Brian Cashman credited you for bridging the divide between Jeter and A-Rod. So take me back to those moments. What was it like in the clubhouse? How bad was it? And how were you able to kind of galvanize this Yankees team together?
I don't know about me, bridging the gap between those guys. I mean, having a chance to come in 09, I don't think they made the playoffs in 2008. We had going to a new stadium, and it wasn't just me, it was me, Swish, and AJ, having a chance to come in and, Cash told us, I want you guys to be yourselves in the clubhouse. have fun. And, for me, that meant, taking guys to basketball games, going out to dinners, doing different things. For AJ, that meant, coming up with a pie celebration after wins. And, we had a belt that we gave away. I think they still do that now. That started in 2009. Johnny Damon was ignited by Swisher. So it was that, I think it was all three of us being able to come in and, just be ourselves and bring what we have from other organizations into that Yankee clubhouse. And our core, gelled right away. And, we were able to get off to a pretty good start. And that summer was really magical.
All right, your podcast is MLB According to CC, which is on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your pods. With that being said, before we get you out of here, not just the Yankees, but everywhere else, when you look across Major League Baseball, there's been a really weird season, good teams that we didn't expect to be good. What do you think has been so far the most interesting storyline in Major League Baseball?
I think the NL Central. If you just look at how much talent's in the National League Central, I don't know right now. I could check right now, but every team was over 500 in that division. You got so much young talent on each team. If you look in Pittsburgh, you got Connor Griffin and Paul Skeens, and St. Louis, you got J.J. Weatherholt and Jordan Walker, and in Cincinnati, you got Chase Burns and Sal Stewart and Hunter Green. So it's just so much young talent. PCA with the Cubs. I love watching the NL Central, and I think they're going to be good in that division for a long time.
You see it right there. MLB According to CC drops Wednesdays, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your pods. I don't know if you go to parades when they've thrown parades for you, but if you go to the parade, be safe, my friend. Enjoy it. CC Sabathia, we really appreciate you hanging out with us. Thanks for your time and your brilliant insights, man.
Oh, no problem. Thank you, guys.
That's great stuff from him. Check out MLB According to CC wherever you get your podcast. Coming up, from feeling great in New York to feeling miserable in Dallas. We'll tell you about it.
There was a big bright light shining on the hall, and I saw these two figures, and they were coming. I couldn't see who they were. It was just like dark, shadowy figures. And then we walked past them, and I was just talking to Jeff, and they were talking about before we started signing about how it goes. And then grabbed me from behind. He's like, hey, he says, you're not even going to say hello to me? You're doing that? And it was Taker. I said, I had no idea it was you, but that's so cool. It's so good to see you, man. I gave him a hug, and I said, man, I got to tell you, I said, I'm super excited for you, man. Are you excited for Dave Meltzer to give you the Booker of the Year award? And he said, shut up,
How do you sort of take your game to the next level in what is now a split backfield?
Yeah, you always need a split backfield running back. We take a lot of hits. We get hit every play, either for you blocking or running. And I say Montgomery, he been doing a great job just going off of just learning my style of play, me learning his style of play, learning new things. You always need a tandem 1-2 punch in the backfield. Sometimes you need a 3-punch. So just getting that in, and we just getting to work right now.
Got to get a touchdown on this possession. Stepping up Garrett. Garrett surveying. He wants it all. End zone Flavors is there, but it's pulled away by Cook. Cook pulled it out of the air and out of the hands of Flavors for a Northern Arizona touchdown.
That just happened. In my mind, I'm thinking INT, ball game's over. Marlon Cook says, give me this. I need it.
Myles Garrett traded to the Rams. They're trying to live in two worlds where they've got an eye on the future with the quarterback they took this year, but also clearly, maybe more than any other team we've seen, trying to push here for a Super Bowl, which God, the burden of expectations is going to be tough on that team this year. Like it is, sometimes I kind of roll my eyes at the Super Bowl or bust idea, but this really is like, that's it. Like Super Bowl or bust. Everything else it would be a failure of a season.
Mavs fans catching a stray after the NBA championship because Nico Harrison really let Jalen Brunson and Luka Doncic go. Brunson walked in free agency. Dallas traded Luka after he took him to the finals. In fact, it looks really bad when you see the total return. In total return, they got 29 games of AD. One first rounder, by the way, that's not Cooper Flagg we're talking about. That was by benefit of being terrible at winning the lottery. And Max Christie. Caroline, I can't imagine what it feels like watching Jalen Brunson stand up there. And of course, Jalen has a generational tie to the Knicks. I'm not taking anything away from that. But Jalen Brunson took less money to go to the Knicks, and the Mavs never really made the play to try and keep him. On the same night, they drafted Luka and Jalen, and now Jalen has a chip. Luka's one of the biggest stars in the league, and the Mavs have absolutely no idea how they're actually going to get great. This has to be a heartbreaking moment for Mavs fans.
It's like watching your ex that you broke up with marry a supermodel and like buying a yacht. It's like all of these guys that you thought that you could win without, or you thought that you were better without, go off and do exactly what you want to do. Now, I think we have to look at Luka and Jalen Brunson in kind of two different lights, right? Because we knew when it happened, as soon as the trade came across our Twitter timelines and our phones, we knew that was a dumb trade. Like, we knew that Nico Harrison was going to end up probably losing his job, which he eventually did because of this trade. Because you don't trade away a superstar in his prime and get literally nothing in return. We knew it was brutal, and it ended up being just as brutal as we all expected it to be. It's the Jalen Brunson of it all. It's the guy that you thought, nah, no, we're good. Not worth it. It's a guy that you thought that you were better than. It's a guy that you thought that you did not need, who now is ultimately ended up being the king of New York, winning a championship, and will go down as one of the most beloved Knicks and New York sports figures in history, and has now cemented himself as one of the most clutch players in the history of the NBA. Ooh, that hurts. And you got nothing in return for him. You know, we joke that the Mavs got nothing in return for Luka, because they really didn't, but they did. You literally got nothing for Jalen Brunson. He walked in free agency. So it's both of them. It's, you knew that losing Luka was going to be bad. Losing Jalen Brunson in free agency seems so much more miserable and terrible now than it did at the time. But I mean, if you're a Mavs fan, you had Jalen Brunson, who is, I would say right now, the biggest star in the league. Will he be the biggest star in the league moving on and moving forward? Probably not. But right now, it's Jalen Brunson's league and it's Jalen Brunson's world. And you couldn't unlock that from him. The Dallas Mavericks organization couldn't get out of anywhere close to what the Knicks are getting out of Jalen Brunson than when you got out of Jalen Brunson. On his best year in Dallas, he was averaging 16 points a game. As soon as he was traded to New York, he ballooned to 24 points a game, then 28 points a game, then 26 points a game, 26 points a game this past season in New York, and 45 in a championship clinching game. You couldn't get that out of Jalen Brunson, but the New York Knicks could. Oof, salt in the wound.
Yeah, that's no different than if we're watching Chopped on Food Network and you see a basket of ingredients. Everybody gets the same basket. Some cooks can cook with it and some cooks can't. The Mavs couldn't figure out how to unlock Jalen Brunson, which has to be a statement to the Mavs. And also, by the way, look back at the timeline for anyone that wasn't paying attention. Before the 2021-2022 season, Brunson and his camp actually went to the Mavericks, according to multiple reports, offering to sign a 4-year, $55 million extension. Dallas wanted to wait and see how the postseason went, and they decided they didn't want that offer. So they allowed it to happen. And then after the trade deadline passes to the next season, they then offer the 4-year, $55 million extension. But at that point, Brunson had outplayed it and decided, hey, we're going to wait till free agency. Free agency opens. Dallas didn't even present a max contract offer. They didn't even try. So I know he took less money to go to the Knicks, and maybe he would have always taken less money to go to the Knicks. But what we do know is that Brunson's team went to the Mavericks before 21-22 and said, hey, let's just lock this up for 4 years, $55.5 million. Could have done it. Didn't do it. They chose to make him play that out and see where it goes. Now, sure, you could say, well, they didn't know that Jalen Brunson was going to be Jalen Brunson. You see him every day in practice. You didn't know. That's on you. You have him on that roster. You didn't know. That's on you. You can't figure out a way to maximize the player. That's on the organization. This is part of what we do so often, Caroline. We put the success and failure of players squarely at the feet of players. And we say, well, you know, he couldn't grow through it. Well, organizations have so much to do with finding it, unlocking it, maximizing it, coaching it, teaching it, all of these different things that the Mavs failed at. So it's not even that the Mavs had him and lost him. It's the Mavs had him, had the chance to keep him. The Mavs didn't keep him. The Mavs couldn't unlock him. The amount of things that the Mavs did that has just got to go in the screw-up column when you look back at Jalen Brunson is inexcusable. And this isn't the beginning, or this isn't the end of having to face this. This is the beginning. I mean, Jalen Brunson's superstar is only going to rise year after year after year. Luka Doncic is only going to get more famous year after year after year. There's a chance that the Mavs organization is sitting here watching the two people they just decided they don't need compete for championships for the next decade while they try and figure out if they can put enough around Cooper Flagg before he eventually demands a trade. Like, this is just such a massive cluster, you know what, for the Mavs, that it becomes one of the most inexcusable moments in modern NBA.
I mean, it's a pure and utter and epic failure, and dare I even say crimes against basketball humanity. With the way that Nico Harrison has fumbled that bag so epically. When you see, we knew that that trade was going to be stupid, but then you even see what Luka's been able to do with the Lakers. No, they didn't win a championship, but I mean, Luka's one of the best, if not the best, just pure shooters and scorers in the NBA. Jalen Brunson, the most clutch player in the NBA. Can you imagine what those two could have done together in Dallas? I'm sure it's the same way that Clippers fans feel about SGA winning back-to-back MVPs and winning a championship in OKC. We could have had that guy? You mean we had that guy and we just traded him away thinking that Paul George was going to be the answer? If we want to, go into a different league and into a different sport, I'm sure it's the same way that New York Jets fans or Carolina Panthers fans might feel about watching Sam Darnold win a championship in Seattle. Like, what do you mean we had that guy and we didn't have that same kind of level of success? Why not? Why couldn't we do that? Why couldn't our team do what Sam Darnold has done for the Seattle Seahawks? It's the same way where you just question all, decision makers at hand, and you can't refire Nico Harrison. He's already lost his job. He's already never going to get a job in basketball again, or at least no GM position at the very least, or at least no decision-making position at the very least. But to think about the what if, that is, I think, one of the most criminal and worst feelings as a sports fan of what could we have done? What if we had held on to those two pieces? It's not just could we have won a championship, it's how many championships could we have won if we just did our jobs right?
Yeah, and the Mavs aren't the only people that deserve a little bit of questioning right now. So, frankly, it is Minnesota. I mean, Cat joins this weird list of people that have left Minnesota and then immediately win a title. Kevin Garnett, Kevin Love, Andrew Wiggins. I think the reason Cat bothers me so much is because Cat left. They let Cat out of the building. They decided Cat wasn't the right Robin, and now they're in search of a Robin for Anthony Edwards, right? Like, so the very thing they need right now is the thing that they let walk out the door and then just contributed to a championship. So now I'm looking at Anthony Edwards, figuring out, is he going to join this list next? Like, Minnesota has never proven they can put the right pieces around somebody to win a chip. So it seems reasonable to me that Anthony Edwards is eventually just going to have to go somewhere else if he wants to win the Larry LB.
And the thing with Cat is it's not like he was just a passenger who was fortunate enough to be on a team that won a championship. I mean, Cat effectively shut down the 7'4" French alien that we have in the league on the way to a championship. I know Cat didn't have a great game 5. Obviously, he was in foul trouble, but he had a good series. And what he was able to do to Victor Wembanyama that nobody else in the league has been able to do, not even Chet, who won a championship in OKC. So I think that's what hurts even worse is Cat was a major part of this Knicks championship, not just a supplementary player, supplementary scorer on a championship team. But honestly, if you were to ask me, what's the higher likelihood? Anthony Edwards wins a championship in Minnesota or Anthony Edwards wins a championship elsewhere? History is not too kind to the Minnesota Timberwolves, so I have to say, I think it's Anthony Edwards winning a championship elsewhere.
I mean, and then if you look around, particularly, look, Minnesota is going to be part of the Giannis sweepstakes. For the next couple of days, everybody's going to be part of the Giannis sweepstakes. So
But is that the key for Minnesota?
It isn't. Like, that's the thing. Okay, great. You add Giannis. You put Giannis with Anthony Edwards. Is that suddenly making this Timberwolves team better than the meteoric hot run we just saw from the Knicks? No. Is that better than where I think the Celtics are going to be when they're healthy for a full season? No. I mean, Cleveland, while they can't do anything in the playoffs, still is a better team than Minnesota. So I'm looking across the board saying, okay, like, it's fine. Minnesota's fine. With Giannis, they're good, but I'm not suddenly turning around saying, Giannis is the piece that makes the Timberwolves a title contender. Frankly, I think Anthony Edwards has a better chance of winning a title somewhere else than he does of having Giannis come to Minnesota and they win a title together there.
Well, and let's not forget how mucky the West is, right? OKC went to 7 games with San Antonio in the Western Conference Final. OKC is not going anywhere as long as SGA is on that team. I don't think that San Antonio is going anywhere. If you're a Spurs team, I think you find a lot of solace in the fact that you still have Victor Wembanyama, and this is still such a young core. San Antonio is not going anywhere. Denver is not going anywhere. So, I don't know where Minnesota really is supposed to lie here in the hierarchy of the West. Fourth? Third at literal absolute best?
Yeah, I mean, and all of that without any knowledge of what the Lakers are going to do. The West is so stacked. The West is so stacked. I don't know what your plan is. Also, at the same time, you can't just give up. And I get that too. I'm not sure there's anywhere Giannis is a cheat code that leads to a championship. Just being real, I'm not sure that there's anywhere where any one team that realistically can add Giannis and for the pieces they give up for Giannis suddenly find themselves in the title.
If Giannis is healthy, let's live in a world Giannis gets traded to Minnesota and he can stay healthy for the entirety of the postseason. I can see that being the path for Minnesota. It's not a clear one and it's not an easy one because you have to get past all of those teams that we just named, but you can sell me that. But you can't sell me that Giannis will be healthy for the entirety of a postseason because he hasn't been. I mean, over the last 16 postseason games in Milwaukee, Giannis has only been available for 8 of them, and he is not getting any younger. Soft tissue injuries don't just heal themselves overnight when you're in your early 30s. So that's why I believe that Giannis isn't going to be the just ultimate key, this ultimate puzzle piece that you're missing on the path to a championship. So I think that's a tough position for Minnesota to be in because outside of Giannis, what is that piece that you can sell to your fan base that's going to be the ultimate missing piece in a championship in this Western Conference?
Well, maybe the argument, though, is that you're just trying to sell to your fan base. Like, if you take Giannis and you put him on the Lakers, I don't think that suddenly there's a real way that keeps. I mean, obviously, I'm not talking about all of these pieces plus Giannis. They'd have to give up things in return. It would be wild to be a great spectacle. I'm not sure it would be a better basketball team than OKC or San Antonio. Maybe if he goes to OKC, maybe you believe that Giannis is the answer that pushes OKC back over San Antonio. Maybe that's the one thing I'm missing. But even there, I don't know. I just don't know. The hard part about this for Minnesota is that Anthony Edwards is so good. We want to see Anthony Edwards win a title. And in fairness, Anthony Edwards wasn't particularly healthy, and they still pushed in the playoffs in a wild and beautiful way. They still tried to make something happen. I just don't know if I'm Giannis and I'm turning around, I'm saying, I want to go somewhere where I can win a championship. And also what they give up doesn't take me out of the championship range. I don't know where that exists. It was easy a few months ago when everybody wanted to put him in New York. But last time I checked, Cat has suddenly, there's no reason that New York, all of our takes on the Knicks in January look laughable now, right? Like New York can just lock it up and say, thank you. You all did not believe we are just fine. Like I think it's incredible and it will be studied for years. A team that was so inconsistent in the regular season, they couldn't find their vibe and then found it that way in the regular season. We're not going to know for a long time whether New York was just hot or whether New York is sustainably what they are. But the Knicks sort of closing these doors has changed the way we see the value for Giannis is sort of ancillary damage. So plenty more that we've got to come on the NBA. We've got all week to figure out where Giannis is going to go. Hopefully it happens this weekend. Speaking of which, trade season about to open up. But are the Knicks the model to copy? We'll figure it out next.
Why is it still difficult for the U.S., especially the U.S. men's national team, to sort of be this bigger power?
I think there's two things. One, you can't price out the working class from games, and it covers every culture, every demographic. Also, you have to inspire, right? You need a product on the field that makes people want to go spend that money to watch you play, right? And so I think that's the two things that you're kind of dancing with.
Possibly for one of those RPO type plays where you put it in Tomas's gut, but you see the sticky coverage on the outside, trying not to allow for easy completions.
From the 16, they send the blitz. He lofts it, corner of the end zone. What a catch against the wall. Quentin Randolph
Problem was, this is good coverage. You just got to continue to run. Right there, you see Page kind of give up on it.
Mike Leach revolutionizes offense in the SEC with the air raid. Bob Stoops gets the Oklahoma job. He calls the guy whose offense drove him the craziest, who makes Mike Leach's offensive coordinator at Oklahoma. That works really well. Texas Tech hires Mike Leach. That changed high school football in the state of Texas. Meanwhile, you had players from Texas Tech going into the NFL saying, hey, here's what we did. He changed football at every level.
1:18 to play, third quarter, pumps once, DeLaura rolls. DeLaura calling out for his receivers, back across the field, wide open, McKee inside the 10, Seneca McKee, angles for the end zone, touchdown, Nighthawks.
But he keeps the play alive and just finds the backside. McKee with a great finish. Phenomenal job right there by DeLaura.
Starting on Sunday, teams can begin negotiating with their own free agents and extension eligible players. All 30 teams are now eligible to make a trade. That's right. Today, all 30 teams are eligible to make a trade. What does that mean? It means we're on Giannis watch yet again. I don't know. But let me ask you something, Caroline.
We've been on Giannis watch. It's been
for
years.
a decade? For a decade.
Yes.
Shout out to our buddy
years.
Frank Schwab. Frank is like, just stop talking about it. I don't care. I get it, Frank. I get it. Shout out to Frank. But it's a copycat league, all right? And the Knicks got better. They got to a title by making a bunch of trades, right? So you think about all the work that they've been doing, all the tinkering they've been doing. And as I referenced earlier, the fact that it made a lot of this season look really haphazard, but they made so many significant trades. They may not have been earth-shattering trades, but they were big enough to put them to where they are. So are the Knicks the new blueprint? Do we think maybe teams will be more active in the trade market because of what the Knicks just did?
And well, let's point out that sports are copycat leagues. It's not just the NBA, it's professional sports in general. How many times have we talked about, will this be this team's version of the SGA trade? Everyone's kind of searching for that. What did we see after the Rams won a Super Bowl? We saw Denver say exactly that. F them picks. Paid Russell Wilson all that money because they thought that Russell Wilson was going to be their version of Matthew Stafford. We saw how that turned out. So everyone looks at every recent champion and says, okay, what's that formula? Can we follow that formula to a championship? Now, how did the Knicks build their team? They trade all those picks for Mikal Bridges. They traded for OG Anunoby. They acquired Jalen Brunson in free agency. They traded for Karl Anthony Towns. They had this blueprint of, we don't need to draft and develop. That was kind of the Spurs model. We will kind of pick and choose our team, and we'll pick players and we'll trade for players, or in Jalen Brunson's case, acquire him in free agency, that we feel like fit our mold and fit our identity. That feels like a copyable formula for winning a championship, right? Everybody has picks. Everybody can trade, and can find these players that are available via trade to kind of fit their model. I do see a world where there are GMs out there that convince themselves that trading for Giannis is their version of trading for Cat, trading for OG, is kind of do it all big in a world. It's kind of do it all big defensive types of players. I can see a world where GMs buy into that and believe in that. I can see a world where they bought into that beforehand, and the Knicks' recent success, this Knicks championship, pushes them over the board there. So I can see that. But I don't know if it is totally and completely replicable, because it's not just how the Knicks built this team. It was the culture of this team that I think really fueled them to a championship. And obviously Jalen Brunson being Mr. Clutch. And obviously Cat being able to shut down Victor Wembanyama in the first couple of games of this series. And obviously it's OG Anunoby and that putback and, getting a little lucky there. Of course, it's all of those things as well. But it's the Knicks' buy-in and their belief into their culture. It's their relationship. It's the fact that they were powered by the power of friendship in this series and in this entirety of the postseason. It's Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson and Mikal Bridges' relationship going back to college. It was all of these warm fuzzies that I felt like it really fueled the Knicks. it was Mike Brown being able to facilitate that culture. And you don't just copy that and replicate that overnight.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. If you want to copy this, then what you'd have to do is trade for and acquire former college teammates that know how to win a championship together, that can handle the pressure of playing in New York City while adding a couple of key pieces along the way that have the size to stop Wemby and also are willing to, over the course of the year, figure out how to handle the new role that's being asked of them with the coach that's also willing to compromise enough to change some of those roles throughout the course of the playoff to make sure that guys get fed more and that they can reveal the best of who they are at the best time. When you say it like that, I don't really think you can replicate it. But also, Caroline, I think the other thing we have to really acknowledge is that there's an expectation this year's draft has a lot of talent and a lot of depth. If we buy the argument that the copycat league has already been trying to copy OKC and San Antonio, which means draft, depth, and develop, as I've said a million times on this show, I don't know how you suddenly change that strategy now. I think too many people are too all in on the draft, develop, depth strategy, which is why we have a problem with tanking that, funny, we all forgot about during the playoffs. There is this moment of, if that's the road you've already gone down, you've acquired picks, you're trying to make something happen. I don't even know who the guys are that are out there right now that would suddenly recreate the Knicks and what they accomplished in this run. The magic of Brunson can't just be accomplished. The way OG Anunoby played throughout the series just can't be accomplished. The contributions of Cat isn't just going to happen. And again, the vibe and connection that comes from bringing together teammates that are still bonded and love each other, that won a championship, with a coach that seemed to have the right pulse of the guys at the right time, and an organization that didn't panic when some of those very stars were sitting at a podium saying, I still don't know what my role is in February. My God, like, you just lay all that out. If I go to a team now and I say, if my team if I own the Fenton Fitzies, all right, and I walk into the Fenton Fitzies and I'm like, all right, you're my owner, and I say, I've got a plan for you. What's my plan? I'm going to take our time. We're going to draft the best players available. We're going to build the right culture over the course of the next few years. We're going to put the young nucleus together. We're going to let them experience the NBA. And in 3 or 4 years, we have a real team that we can count on. That's pitch one. Pitch two is we're going to go trade for all of these players that already know each other, put them together, and we're going to find the right culture in that moment. And we're going to manage all the years. Like, this isn't impossible. It's an impossible sales pitch. You would fire me on the spot if my pitch was replicate the Knicks, because I don't think the magic that we just saw can be replicated.
And stop me if this sounds just a little bit too Disney Channel for your liking. I do think there is a little sprinkle of Disney Channel in this Knicks run, though. This just relentless belief in what they wanted to do in their relationships, and the fact that everybody had their role and understood their role and was very unselfish in pursuing their roles. Like, there is a little bit of just like a little warm fuzzy there. I do think there is a sense of having New York City behind you and wanting to win it for New York City and wanting to win it for a fan base that hadn't seen one in 50 plus years. Like, I did see a funny tweet last night. It was a t-shirt that said, my first Knicks championship, and it was all in toddler sizes. And somebody tweeted out, like, why are these all toddler sizes? Like, this is my first championship too, and I'm a grown person. So I do think there is that certain wanting to do it for a rabid and passionate fan base in that city that hasn't gotten one in 50 plus years. That kind of fueled this team as well. And it was the perfect team to kind of buy into that, right? It was the perfect team that had so much belief in each other and had so much belief in the city that they could be fueled by that. We've had so many years of being too cool for school in the NBA that I'm too good, to give it my all in the regular season. I'm too cool to actually care about the All-Star game. I think the NBA was in a really critical period of just players not really giving a care, or not giving enough of a care, at least in the regular season, and ramping it up in the postseason. Where this Knicks team, they cared. They showed a level of care. Wemby showing a level of care that I think is so refreshing for basketball fans everywhere, that they could buy in to this belief from the city.
I will die on the hill of magic matters sometimes. The Knicks in these playoffs face deficits of 14, 12 twice, 29 and 16. They were 4-1 in those games. Think about that. The deficits that they overcame. They have the largest comeback in NBA Finals history. They also have the 4th and 6th largest comebacks in NBA Finals history in a series they won in 5. Like, we're not talking about, oh my God, they got lucky and, it was a back and forth. No, they dominated when it mattered the most. When you start thinking about these things that you see here, the Spurs are the 7th team in history to lose 3 or more home games in a single final series. They lost home court advantage. They 9 consecutive postseason road wins for this Knicks team. They won 14 straight at one point. I don't think you can replicate magic. And as much as we keep talking about like the Disney aspect of it, Caroline, I think you're right. There is a Disney aspect to what we saw because it truly feels like a movie. So if your plan as an organization is to replicate something that only belongs in the movies, that's not a plan. I think what the Knicks did will captivate our memories forever. And I think in 30, 40 years, people will be talking about these games like they were there, because the way that we watched on Saturday night when the Knicks won the NBA championship, I don't know that I've ever seen that before for teams that most people didn't have a vested interest in. Everybody fell in love with this team, this moment, this magic. I don't think you can replicate that. And I think to imply that you can actually undersells just how perfect this all was. Again, this is just the beginning of a week where there could be trades. We'll have you caught up on every single possible trade that could even go down. But coming up next, let's get into, sorry. We do have news. Look at that. We're veering. It's live TV. We have news everybody should be caught up on in case you missed it in the NBA. James Harden controversy. James Harden got himself in trouble in Texas. He was arrested for gun possession. He had a gun in his cup holder. In Texas, state law says that it must be holstered. He did not have it holstered. It was discovered that he was arrested and charged with carrying an unlawful weapon in Houston Saturday, held on a $100 bond, posted Saturday. There will be a hearing on June 22nd. Further steps in this case. It is a misdemeanor, but certainly making news. James Harden with the gun in Texas. Again, it is a lawful carry state, but it must be holstered in a vehicle. It was not.
This is not a political statement in the slightest, but to get arrested for unlawful possession of a firearm in the state of Texas is incredibly difficult. So dumb on James Harden. He had a lapse in judgment. It was not smart. If you're going to carry a firearm, you have to abide by the law, and he was not, and you're going to pay the price for it. Now, it is a misdemeanor. Nobody was hurt, thank goodness. That's the most important thing. His life was not, in danger, nor was anyone else's. So we do have to acknowledge that it is a misdemeanor. So this isn't going to be anything, I don't believe, that threatens his future with the Cleveland Cavaliers. I don't think that this is anything that is going to balloon into anything larger than it is. James Harden will pay the fine. I'm sure that it is the fine, the ticket, whatever it is. He'll pay that, and we'll all kind of forget about this moving forward. But dumb lapse in judgment. You can't do that.
Yeah, it is a dumb lapse in judgment, and it creates headlines, but I would be stunned if there's any actual cause and effect to this. As again, in the state of Texas, this was just a misdemeanor. It's more procedural. It's not that he had the gun. All of the gun issues, as opposed to some cases in some states, everything about the gun was legal except for where it was being held and how it was being held in his vehicle. So misdemeanor offense. We'll keep you updated if there's any additional news on James Harden in the meantime. All right, coming up from a wild weekend, it's time to figure out what was the most wow of everything we saw. Some weekend wow factor coming at you next on Yahoo Sports Daily.
Why is it still difficult for the U.S., especially the U.S. men's national team, to sort of be this bigger power?
I think there's two things. One, you can't price out the working class from games, and it covers every culture, every demographic. Also, you have to inspire, right? You need a product on the field that makes people want to go spend that money to watch you play, right? And so I think that's the two things that you're kind of dancing with.
Possibly for one of those RPO type plays where you put it in Tomas's gut, but you see the sticky coverage on the outside, trying not to allow for easy completions.
From the 16. They send the blitz. He lofts it. Corner of the end zone. What a catch against the wall. Quentin Randolph.
Problem was, this is good coverage. You just got to continue to run. Right there, you see Page kind of give up on it.
Mike Leach revolutionizes offense in the SEC with the air raid. Bob Stoops gets the Oklahoma job. He calls the guy whose offense drove him the craziest, who makes Mike Leach's offensive coordinator at Oklahoma. That works really well. Texas Tech hires Mike Leach. That changed high school football in the state of Texas. Meanwhile, you had players from Texas Tech going into the NFL saying, hey, here's what we did. He changed football at every level.
1:18 to play, third quarter, pumps once, DeLaura rolls. DeLaura calling out for his receivers, back across the field, wide open, McKee, inside the 10, Seneca McKee, angles for the end zone, touchdown, Nighthawks.
But he keeps the play alive and just finds the backside. McKee with the great finish. Phenomenal job right there by DeLaura.
Oh, I present to you Owen Wilson saying, wow. Why are we presenting that? Because it's one of our favorite segments on Yahoo Sports Daily. Going Owen. This is where we take a look at some of the best stories throughout the course of the sports weekend. And Caroline does this so much better. Caroline, go ahead. Give it to the world.
Wow.
Wow. I don't know how she, yeah. See, I can't tell the difference. If I close my, go ahead, Carol. Can't tell the difference.
Wow.
Oh, no.
If there's
My hidden
anything that we
talent.
need on this show, I need Owen Wilson to come on Yahoo Sports Daily and have a wow off with Caroline Fenton. All right, so we're going to take a look at some of the biggest sports stories. Is this a waff? I don't know. We're going to have biggest sports stories, and we're going to figure out if they get a wow. And if they get a wow, you'll hear either Caroline or Owen do this.
Wow.
Oh, it's so good. All right. Let's start with Freedom 250. Oh, UFC. It was a spectacle, and congratulations, Justin Gaethje absolutely takes down previously undefeated Ilia Topuria in the process. Gaethje, 37 years old, the oldest to win the title, the lightweight title at that point. Absolutely incredible, not just for the fight, which was violent and bloody and vicious and everything you think a 4-round UFC fight. It was stopped in the 4th round when, at that point, Topuria couldn't even see through his eyes. They were so swollen shut. But the visual spectacle of it, Caroline, from the outset, it was delayed 45 minutes with weather, but the White House in the background, the mall area around the Smithsonian, everybody out there watching, it was just a giant American spectacle.
The flyover, 5 fighter jets flying over the fight. It was like like a bald eagle screech times 1,000 in that moment. I said 5. That's like 50 fighter jets right there. That was an epic moment. And then we look at Justin Gaethje too. He was standing in the Oval Office looking at the Declaration of Independence before he came out to fight Topuria, and then just as an underdog and beat him down. Can you imagine that? You walk out from the Oval Office as an underdog and then you remain victorious. My goodness, how American can it get? So yes, the spectacle was absolutely going Owen. I would have appreciated if everyone is maybe just a little bit more respectful when they spoke into the microphone, but the event, the spectacle of it all, the American warm fuzzies all kind of delivered in that one. So absolutely going Owen.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
The same. I want this. I want this to be an annual 4th of July tradition. I want something epic on the White House lawn.
Dana
every
White
the
says
4th
he
of July.
cannot afford it. So this
Yeah.
might be a one-off.
You know what, Dana? Figure it out. You're rich. Figure it out. All right. All right. How about this one? We'll get you another one in this process. And from freedom to liberty. The hottest WNBA team now has 7 straight wins. The Liberty beat the Mystics on Sunday. If they win their next game later this week, they'll clinch a spot in the Commissioner's Cup on June 30th. All right, so are we going Owen for this win? Actually, they have clinched. Sorry. Are we going Owen with this?
Yeah, they've clinched in the East. So they have won the East. We're still waiting to see who they will play in the West in the Commissioner's Cup. Commissioner's Cup play ends on Wednesday, so we'll at least have our definitive matchup at the Commissioner's Cup by Wednesday. Commissioner's Cup is June 30th. Going Owen for this, absolutely. Thank you very much, Owen Wilson. Thank you. So, fun little fact. Every time the New York Liberty have reached the Commissioner's Cup game, they went to the WNBA Finals. And it's not just for the New York Liberty, a great sign of what could become. But historically, over the last several years, we've had the Commissioner's Cup. That has been a good omen for teams reaching far in the WNBA postseason and into the WNBA finals. So this is huge for the New York Liberty, a team that has caught so much fire as of late. Now, they came into Commissioner's Cup play on a 3-game losing streak. They have been red hot. They still have yet to get Sabrina Ionescu back. So this is a great team that's been incredibly hot that is only going to get better once Sabrina re-enters the fold.
I don't disagree with any of that. Also, I will go Owen on it because it looks like we are set for a matchup. Still a little bit to go against the Aces, who, by the way, had a huge win over the Lynx over the course of the weekend. That was a big one. So give me Liberty v Aces in this. It just feels like you mentioned, going to the WNBA final. Like, it just feels like we are on this collision course. I want every ounce of it. It's hard not to
I
go
want Liberty
this.
Lynx.
Oh,
Give me Liberty Lynx. I need a WNBA finals rematch from a couple of years ago.
I'm sorry. The Aces, Liberty wouldn't satisfy you. You wouldn't be happy with the Aces did just beat the Lynx. Thank you very much.
But I remember, was old enough to remember the controversy of that Lynx Liberty WNBA finals from just a couple of years ago. There are Lynx fans that are still feel like they were robbed of a championship that year. So you mean to tell me that I can get that matchup with $500,000 and a trophy on the line? Sign me up for that. Of course, I'd be happy with Asia versus Stewie. I mean, anyone would be, but I'm here for the drama.
I'm not sure in general if I love mid-season tournaments, but the Commissioner's Cup is still working, I think, to generate conversation and excitement, even with the new climate in the WNBA, which we've talked a lot about in this show. Let's get one more in. Troy rallied, outlasted Ole Miss at the Men's College World Series. Their dream run rolls on. 12-8 win over Mississippi in an elimination game Sunday. The Trojans erased a 4-run deficit to post their 18th comeback. That's 18th come from behind win of the season. They advanced to a game Tuesday against West Virginia. Are we going on for Troy?
Going on for Troy.
Wow.
Thank you very much. I mean, this is a place Ole Miss has been before. Remember, we're just a couple of years removed from Ole Miss winning the College World Series under Mike Bianco, their current head coach. So this is a place where Ole Miss is comfortable. This is a place that Ole Miss has been before. This is a place that Ole Miss knows how to win in. Not Troy. Troy's just coming into Omaha, happy to be here, riding the good vibes. So facing elimination, who is the one that was able to make things happen? Not the team that's been here before, not the team that won a championship, 4 years ago. It was Troy, the team that has just defied all odds and even being here to begin with. So I'm absolutely here for the good vibes of a mid-major making massive splashes in Omaha. The greatest show on dirt.
Can I give you a Team of Destiny tie-in you didn't know you needed? Troy,
I'd love
obviously, for all of us that love our Greek mythology, this is the nerdiest thing ever said on a sports program. Troy, the setting for the Iliad and the Odyssey, the summer blockbuster movie that we're all anticipating coming out this summer, looks like it's going to be the absolute beast movie of the summer. Wow. Feels like that's destiny. That's a reason to go watch, right? Like everybody's getting ready for the Odyssey to come into theaters. Suddenly Troy finds a way into, I don't know if they can win. I'm just saying,
Caroline, they Trojan horsed their way into Omaha.
Right? They snuck up on everybody. I can neither confirm nor deny whether the entire team stuffed themselves into a horse that just rolled out onto the field. But I can tell you that that's what they should do if they go all the way through this. The 18 come from behind wins is just such an absolute legendary accomplishment. I don't care how this ends. Just the rise and the run in this has been one of the incredible things. And you've mentioned it repeatedly, but one thing that I love about the College World Series is these sorts of stories. It's one thing that's absolutely epic. We'll continue to try and be epic throughout the course of this show. We will be back right here tomorrow at 9 a.m. She's Caroline Fenton. I'm Jason Fitz. Come back, hang out with Yahoo Sports Daily. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.